Welcome to the Robby Rose Show. You are listening to the segment Bearded in the Brains with Dr. Josh Heenan.
May I have your attention, please?
Give me a heater.
Now listening to Clear the Mechanism.
The Robby Rose Show.
The Robby Rose Show.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Robby Rowland on another segment of Bearded in the Brains. Guys, I've gotten some dope feedback on this segment, Bearded in the Brains. So I appreciate each and every one of you that reach out to me and say, hey, that's that Dr. Heenan guy, although he's kind of a loser, the podcasts are sweet. No one has said that. If anything, I'm the loser. He's the brains. But so today we'll focus on a little topic that I kind of get asked a lot about, as far as sticking out on a baseball field. Obviously, I think athletically, there's things that we can control, and it's about putting yourself in the best possible situation to stick out, right? So if you're a plus runner, showcase your running skills. If you're a strong guy, showcase your strength. If you're a high velocity thrower, showcase that. If you don't bring those certain qualities to the table, train your face off to bring those qualities to the table. So we'll talk a little bit about that, sticking out on a baseball field. We'll also dive into the ever so popular topic of saving your money on showcases if you really don't necessarily have anything to showcase. Oh, well, hey, since we're on the topic of showcases and showcasing your skills and abilities, Dr. Josh Heenan and I, we're kind of on the same wavelength when it comes to, and we actually even talk about it in this episode. You'll hear it from both of us, but we both say, hold yourself accountable. Instagram, Twitter, all these social networking has the ability to not only showcase your skills to the world through the internet, but it also has this inner ability for you to continue to hold yourself accountable by posting your stuff, right? So you're like, hey, if I have to post this thing, I'm going to make sure that I'm working my freaking tail off to post something quality. So along the lines of that, guys, I want to bring to you a podcast sponsorship in Pocket Radar. I know for those of you who guys that typically tune into this show know that Pocket Radar is a sponsor, and I talk about them a lot. But to allude to that, it is important to continuously hold yourself accountable and continuously attempt to reach your goals, guys. And Pocket Radar is a great tool to have. I carry it around in my bag every single way. Everywhere I go, I have my baseball bag. I just made a post about it, but it literally has all my baseball stuff, including my Pocket Radar, because I know that when I throw a baseball, there's something to do with throwing with intent and bringing out a radar gun. You constantly want to challenge yourself and make sure that you're in line with your goals and you're seeing progression. We know that velocity is not a linear progression, but we know that anytime that you throw in front of a radar gun, there's going to be some more, intent there. And I think that's, for me personally, when I made my biggest velocity jump in 2015, I was throwing in front of a radar gun. I'm not going to say every time, but a majority of my throwing sessions, I wanted to know, where was I at? Where do I want to be at? And go that way. So, guys, Pocket Radar, dope company, something you definitely should throw in the baseball bag. I can help you out. I can save you 10%. You go to pocketradar.com, enter the discount code at checkout, Robby10. Guys, that's Robby10, ROBBY10. I will link the website in the show notes so you guys can go down there, click that, throw it in the cart, purchase it. Well, actually throw it in the cart, enter the discount code, save some money, and then purchase it. Guys, Pocket Radar is a great tool to have, and definitely in this generation when the demand for velocity is so high, I think it's very pivotal that you guys own this tool. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get to Bearded in the Brains with Dr. Josh Heenan. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoy. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Bearded in the Brains. We're coming at you live again from CrossFit Vice in Omaha, Nebraska. Got my boy Josh Heenan with me. I can't even call you Josh Heenan. No one knows who Josh Heenan is. Dr. Heenan with me. So today we're kind of just going to let this topic go, just wherever it goes. I don't know. But the question that I want to ask you is, what do athletes need to do to really stand out when it comes to either being recruited or scouted, stand out in an athletic manner?
So, wildly loaded question.
Right.
We see things across the board, both on primarily like the college and professional levels, where the variance is huge depending on the program. But the thing that we see the most is having one skill set that is exceptionally noteworthy, whether it be, if we're talking a baseball population, whether it be fastball velocity, exit velocity, or like unbelievably savage secondary pitch. Those are like the things that we normally see, along with speed on the bases, or things like that.
Power plus power. Because I think the direction that I want this topic to go is, we actually had this conversation the other day in this weight room about how the showcase guys, right? I think there are things that you need to do as a baseball player to put yourself into a position to get seen and get recruited and get scouted and whatever it is. And then when you're in that position, you need to do something extremely well that allows you to stick out. And I know in my experience, there's a lot of showcase guys that will go to a showcase and dominate, but will go to high school, hit 220, but still get drafted in like the top 5 rounds and get paid. So I almost want to tell my listeners, focus on that. Like, focus on developing an athletic skill that really allows you to stick out, because that's what scouts and recruiters are looking for, right?
Well, I think it's, you want to go in trying to have the whole package, not being a shithead, being a good teammate, having good grades. Those are almost prerequisites, in my opinion, to landing a program that's going to help develop, because a good program that's going to help you develop is going to immediately say, this kid's not going to be a good teammate, he's not going to go to class, he's going to be academically a risk every single semester. So those things are really the foundation of like what we preach to our athletes to try to get them in the right position, because baseball will end at some point. But when we're trying to just look at the recruiting stuff, we're trying to elevate that one skill that's going to get them seen as the initial goal, and we're going to try to mitigate the other things along with their injury risk factors. So, I think it's always looking for that lead domino of what's going to get you seen in terms of playing, and for most programs, it's really easy right now to go on Instagram, go on Twitter, go to a showcase and see a guy throwing 90 off a mound and be like, well, the greatest predictor of someone's going to throw 90 is the fact that they've done it before. Yeah. You're not going to, if 2 people walk into the room right now and they look at you and they look at me, they're going to say, wow, Robby's got, 80 pounds on Josh and he's probably got like almost a foot. Robby blindly is probably going to throw harder than Josh. You're not going to teach me to be 6'5". Yeah. So I think people get all butthurt when they're not recruited because they're only picking the big guys or whatever. Well, yeah, but if you've thrown 90, it's a good chance you're going to be able to do it again. Yeah, well,
that's another great conversation too. Is coming from I want to stay on the path of athleticism and training, but just to veer off slightly, I get a question the other day about pitching, and it's like, hey, I throw a fastball, a curveball, a slider, a changeup, and I want to add a split finger or something, and it's like I'm 14 years old or I'm whatever, right. And it kind of goes into that same category when it's like, if you are trying to do multiple different things and trying to hone in on all of those skills, maybe you're not doing it very efficiently, because to me it's like, if you have speed, really hone in on that and get above average speed and then stick out. Or if you have a 90 mile an hour fastball, really focus on, your long toss, your pull downs, your running guns, the types of things that are going to allow you to throw hard, and maybe take less time trying to develop a changeup or a curveball in high school. It's
knowing your strengths and weaknesses. I was a very average high school student, but I took math, English, science, social studies, and Spanish. I can't do much more than say hola, okay? And I took 3.5 years of Spanish or whatever the hell I took, okay?
3.5 years?
I don't know. I took it for 3.5 years too long, okay?
Sounds torture.
But that kid that's trying to develop that 7th pitch, that's like me trying to develop Spanish. sorry, it's going to end up being a waste of time. When you're looking at getting seen and actually developing a skill that you can build a team around and be a guy that can actually produce outs at a level above you, above where you currently are, you need that skill, you know?
It goes back to the goal thing.
Exactly.
It really does. Almost like all of our podcasts really go back to the goal.
It's very
because
simple.
at the same time, this kid who's, let's say, I forget how old he said he was, but he was, say, 15, so that puts him at like a sophomore in high school. So say his goal as a sophomore in high school is to go up to his varsity team and help and get outs. Probably more oftentimes than not, the sophomore is going to need couple different like off-speed pitches that maybe high school hitters just aren't used to seeing, or he's the guy that's a thumber, that could spin it, and that could potentially get him outs. But if his goal at that sophomore level is to do like, hey, I want to get drafted out of high school, I want to be a top 3 rounder,
right?
Then it's like, well, you got to put yourself in that best possible situation to get drafted, because you could have a 0 ERA, and if you're throwing 80-82, and if you could have 7 pitches that you have a quote-unquote feel for, you're still not getting drafted.
Yep. And I need to connect you with my buddy Wayne Mazzoni, the pitching coach at Sacred Heart University, and done a very good job with recruiting over his career, both in the private sector of like teaching people this is how to get recruited, and also in the baseball setting of like actually getting recruits. And Wayne's got a couple little nuggets, but like he walks into his seminars when he goes and talks about recruiting, and he'll say the short answer to everyone's question right here: if you want to be recruited, throw 95 miles an hour. He's like, seminar's done. If you throw 95 miles an hour, I can get you recruited tomorrow. Like that's not very hard. And then the next thing he'll go into is he'll say, what division do you think the average high school baseball player is? And kids raise their hand and they're like, D3, JUCO, whatever. And he's like, no, D4. Like these guys, the average high school player is not ever going to step onto a college field. It's just not going to happen. Because, and I think the hard truth of most of this is that everybody wants to think they're really good at the thing that they like. And it hurts. But that's why I think it's so important to promote yourself and take video, because you can post a video of you throwing 82 and you're like, wow, it's my first time like getting on the mound this year. But having the validation of what's actually there and being able to compare yourself to who you want to be in the big leagues is going to show you where the difference is. If you're throwing 82 but your favorite pitcher is touching 100, this is a massive disconnect. There's a reason why that person was taken in the first round, and the reason why you probably won't play much varsity time, if not go to the next level.
Well, that's what I like about the whole video thing and the social media thing, because another thing that people don't see about it is it's giving you a sense of accountability too.
Absolutely.
Like, and that's why I say, like, when I talk about like a sponsorship and Pocket Radar, like even just having a tool like that around gives you that sense of accountability, knowing that more oftentimes than not, every time you touch a baseball, like you're having to focus on that skill, throwing hard skill. And now I guess now, like even with the evolution of like a Rapsodo and pitch design and all that stuff, like having that gives you the accountability to every time you step on a mound, like there's a purpose now. Like we need, hey, what are you doing today? 10 years ago, it was like, oh, I'm going to work on, my tempo, or I'm going to work on backside hinge, or whatever it is. Now it's like, yo, I'm going to come in and work on my 12-6 curveball. I'm going to try to get the efficiency more close to that 112-6, and I think that literally goes to like the new age type of training too, but we won't dive into that. But it is a sense of knowing where you were and then how you're going to take those steps to progress moving forward.
I think the true testament of most athletes, successful athletes, or really people in general, is being able to step back and take an honest look and figuring out where you are in reality. And the reality is right now, whether anybody likes it or not, radar is, if you're a pitcher, a radar is going to be, your fastball on the mound is going to be the first thing that anybody asks.
100%.
100%.
Maybe today, but like
But today.
Yeah.
But forget about tomorrow, forget about yesterday. We are today. If you are a baseball player right now, like we talked about, if my son is a low, like a high 80s guy in high school and can potentially play two ways.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that we have to have a conversation if that wants to be a career aspiration,
right.
which I'm not putting on my kid.
Right.
That's not even born yet. But I'm saying, you know, if that's a career aspiration, the honest, hard conversation is, will you ever have the skill set, or do you currently have the skill set to get you to be seen in that light? If you are going to a showcase and you are a position player and you are not breaking a 7 on your 60, unless you have the pop of a Barry Bonds or one of these elite level hitters at that lower level, no one's going to even bat an eye and look at you, because speed is important. Speed is one of the few qualities a lot of people think you can't teach, and there's only so much you can teach. Everybody's going to have a genetic limit on what they hit, you know.
Well, that was like the old notion with like throwing velocity too. It was like, which I might just disagree with today. Like, it might be something that we can't teach. But along those lines, like, I think we talk about the showcase type of player, and I kind of want to dive into this a little bit, get your opinion, is what do those kids, where's your opinion lie with those type of kids that do a bunch of showcases and are typically at the bottom of 60 speed, exit velo, launch angle, like all of the metrics that maybe scouts are looking for today?
It's a waste of money.
Totally.
And, you know, my general rule of thumb, and obviously I'm coming from a very biased movement, performance training aspect, is that if I had a kid come to me right now and they're like, I want to go to a showcase, if they haven't spent 3 to 6 months 3 days a week training, and I don't care if it's in season, I don't care if it's off season, they haven't done that. If they're not spending at least a couple hours a week doing extra skill work on their own to better themselves outside of team practice, whether it means hitting off the tee by themselves, throwing into netting, or actually having like a pitching coach lesson, doesn't matter to me, just extra skill work. If you're not willing to do those two things, you have no business being recruited for a college level program where you're going to be expected, even a D3 JUCO NAIA school, depending on the programs and the leagues they're in, there's caveats to all of this, but most of them are training 3 to 5 days a week. They're hitting just about every day. They're doing those things. So your actions need to lead up to where you say you want to be, and there's no better time to start implementing those things than now. Even if you're an 8th grader and you're like, I want to play Division I baseball, I want to be drafted out of high school. Great. Well, what's it going to take to be drafted out of high school? You're going to be competing against people that are bigger, faster, stronger than you. Your actions need to be that of a major leaguer in 8th grade if you want to have those opportunities. And showcase is a great way to tease out where you really are. A lot of people want to spend money on it because it's a way to validate and throw your information up there. But the only thing that's worse than not going to a showcase is going to a showcase and stinking up the house.
I think that's worse.
Think about what I said, it is worse.
Yeah, but think about that. Like you do go to the showcase. Say it's your first showcase. Say you're like a junior, first showcase, and you go. And I think this gets, like, people don't even think about this fact is, you go to this showcase, you thought you're in a position in your career or your development to go and do well, and you don't do well and you don't showcase anything worthwhile. Like, those scouts remember that. They write your name down. Your name's written down on that showcase card now. And like, now you're setting yourself up for a tough road back.
Absolutely. And it's funny when I'm working showcases, because I will work some showcases throughout the year, and I'll run guys through warm-ups, and occasionally a coach will be like, hey, do you mind like working on such and such with a couple of guys because they may be on someone's radar? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And immediately when I walk back in, the coaches pull me aside, at least a handful of them, and be like, hey, what did you think of so-and-so? Or, hey, what did you think of their movement? Or what were they talking about in the huddle? What was going on? And those are all little pieces. People are watching all the time. And I think that's undervalued. And a huge shout out to Rob Fryman for putting together the flat ground app stuff, because everybody's got excuses. Everybody has excuses, regardless of if it's how hard you throw, what's your exit velo, all these things. Everybody's like, oh, well, that was a bad day. I was hitting in the wind or whatever. Like, shut up. The information is going to be there in video, with radar readings, with Rapsodo data. That stuff is really important. You can get a 60-yard dash time. We get 10 or 60-yard dashes laterally from like that side view to watch our guys and time them. So we're not timing them with a stopwatch, which is going to be inaccurate. We're looking at when's their first movement and when are they crossing the finish line of usually a football field, because that is just as good, if not better, than laser data. And now you can put it out on the Flat Ground app for free. And if you're good and you're fast, or you throw hard, or you have an unbelievable RPM or movement on your pitch, you're gonna have opportunities.
I think it's cool, man, how that everything's not everything, but a lot of things have changed just from like when I was in high school.
Of course.
Because I didn't even think of that Flat Ground app. I got to find a way to partner with him in something, because and that's the beauty of social media and the internet, man, is like there should be no excuse for you saying like, oh, I didn't get seen. I was like, people don't realize the town that I came from to get seen.
Absolutely.
But I think with that Flat Ground app, that it's just such a cool thing to have, to be like, yo, I think we talked about it yesterday, that 96 lefty, just like he's a free agent.
98, yeah.
And I think what it also does a really good job of, it puts things into perspective. Like if you're that guy that just graduated high school and is pissed that he didn't get drafted or whatever, and he's 90, 93, which he's like, yeah, that's hard, right? I'm 90, 93. And then you see a guy that hasn't put on a professional jersey at 95. Right.
Well, I think, and it's the thing that I think will, again, it comes back to being a successful person, and a good person in a lot of different avenues of your life. And being a good person is something we always talk about as being our foundation, because nothing will turn away a scout quicker than like slamming your shit or like MFing a umpire or whatever. Regardless of how good you are, you can't build the program that most people are trying to build by doing that. Yeah. But the second piece to that is, it's important to see where you are in the playing field. So being in understanding where you are relatively to your competition, and within yourself, and it's about bettering yourself. I will never throw a fastball 105 miles an hour. It's just not going to happen.
Don't sell yourself short, man. You're going to hit the point.
I am short, relatively
Don't get
speaking.
short with me, Mr. Frodo.
Relatively speaking, I'm short. But that's the thing is being self-aware of where you are compared to where you were yesterday and where you are to your competition is really important.
Yeah.
And understanding that like you're going to get punched in the face, but the great thing about the social media stuff is that like you can get punched in the face a lot younger now
and understand
where you are, and if you are really the athlete that any program's going to want to take, you're going to step up to the challenge, and you're going to
motivate you,
and you're going to say, you know what, I tell my guys, if anybody has listened to this and has DM'd me before about like how do I get recruited, because I get that a lot, and that's why I've made posts about it, I tell people, put up videos of where you are right now and show your progress, because the best way that a coach is going to be able to see you, the number one way is going to be like, all right, you're throwing 95, great, let's sign you up, you're good to go, or we're going to scout you. The next best thing is showing your progress. If you're a sophomore in high school and you're 77, 78, and then your junior year you make all these gains, you've trained hard, you've worked on different qualities in terms of like your long toss and maybe your weighted ball stuff and your strength training and all these other things, and now you're 83, 84 in your junior year, and then you trained really hard in the season. In summertime you're like 86, 87, you're up another 20, 25 pounds on the year. That's really easy for a coach to be like, he's
do that in college.
He's getting better.
Yeah.
And look at his arm mechanics. His arm mechanics were awful a year ago, and now they're improving. And now this is improving. And that there's gonna be different programs that are gonna invest into different people. If you want to go to LSU and you're not having 2 or 3 great pitches out of high school, or a 95 plus fastball, good luck going to LSU. But if you're going to a mid-range, a lower end D1 program, some D2 programs, some D3 programs, that you're going to have an opportunity where someone's going to say, you know what, kid's got the grades, we can get him onto the program for free because he's going to be on a full academic ride because he's got a 4.0. I have plenty of stories about that.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to spend baseball money on him. And by the way, he projects out as being like maybe a midweek starter that's going to buy us wins throughout the season as a junior and senior because he has naturally progressed over the years, and his 86, 87 has been creeping up 2 or 3 miles an hour the last 3 years. Okay, some people will take a big bet on that. Absolutely.
Totally, and you threw out the word like projectable too. Like, I don't know, man. I think like there's so many things that we forget that are in our control. And like everything you just mentioned is 100% in our control.
Absolutely.
The work effort, the amount of work, what you do on your whatever social media platform you want to put it on, like those are all things that you can actually do the second you're listening to this podcast. Do it. And I think put yourself in the best possible situation for your career.
And I think, we're in a very politically correct society right now. And it's probably only going to get more politically correct as we go on. But a winner's mentality is going to say, what can I do to get there? A loser's mentality is going to be like, oh my God, these are the hurdles.
Yeah.
I have not once taken the stance in my entire life looking around at the other athletes I'm competing against and be like, oh my God, I'm 5'9". What can I do to get 6'4"? That's just it's not going to happen. Right. And there's nothing productive that's going to come out of me worrying about that. Yeah. And I think, and saying that's a loser mentality it may not be politically correct, but maybe there's a better way to phrase it. But I do think it's a loser mentality.
No, you put your
focus
effort
on things that you can't
put
control.
Your effort into things you can.
Exactly.
I mean, and I think that's where a lot of other people do go wrong is they put so much weight into the things that didn't go their way,
right.
And not like having that short-term memory and just being like, okay, I gave up 8 last night. I can't really control that now. So now where's my energy going to go?
And you and I have talked about that as well. In terms of the mentality that you have going into these things, because there's some very good, I'll use an example of closers that you and I have spoken about that, you can rub all the brain cells together in there and the sparks may or may not be flying with some of these people. That are unbelievably gifted and talented, but that is one of the things that makes them good.
Totally.
Because they go out there and they give it, they put it all on the line, and if you get absolutely racked that night, then okay, they're gonna go home, they're gonna eat dinner, they're gonna go to bed, and on to the next one. But 100%. That's not a loser though. That's someone that's gonna say, I'm gonna take the task at hand, I'm gonna move forward. And there's some people that are overthinkers that go out there and they worry about, oh my God, the umpire is not giving me the outside corner. That was my whole pitch plan. Well, you better have plan B, C, D, F, Z, whatever.
That happens.
Yeah, because that happens, and you're, there's plenty of things that are within your control. I'm a hardcore Patriots fan. I love the Patriots. They're my team.
You just like them because they win.
Yeah, that's it. It has nothing to do with that. I grew up the town next to them.
You grew up in Omaha.
Yeah, okay. In Easton, Massachusetts, next to Foxborough. The thing that I love about Bill Belichick is that he looks around and he says, this is the game that we're playing. This is the environment that we're in. There's rules that he has exploited in the NFL, and that have been mapped out as the rules, and he exploits them, and then he finds a way to either make them a strength for theirs or minimize it as a risk. And that's what every single athlete should do. Know the game that you're playing, and right now, the game that is out there is having good velocity, if we're talking pitching. And is it the end-all be-all? Is it going to buy you wins? Maybe, maybe not. We could talk about that all day. But is it going to get you seen? Because is that your short-term goal? Your short-term goal is to be seen by that program that's going to give you the opportunity of continuing playing and developing you. And if they are looking, if you go through their stats and you go through their roster of impact players and you do a quick Google search and figure out what their velocities were in high school, because it's not that hard, because basically you can find out on every single one. You know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
If LSU is only recruiting guys that are touching 93, their junior year of high school and you're throwing 83, either you have a lot of work to do or you need to figure out another school.
Yeah. And that's no like disrespect.
That is not disrespectful.
And I think that's another thing, man, is like these kids are so sensitive. And it's like,
well, but the parents are sensitive too. And
well, I
where
think
are they
we've
learning
created
this
the
from?
culture, but we won't go into that. But but I mean, it's true. It's true, and I think there's another component to that as well. And I think as we progress in a more analytical culture in the game, get in front of Rapsodos, man. Figure out if there is something that you possess that you can essentially market.
Yeah.
Yo, like I know a lot of guys that do throw mid to high 80s, but they got like a 2,500 RPM fastball, and yo, that plays. And I think as we progress, you know, I mean, I'll call it, dude, like 5 to 10 years from now, instead of going to a showcase and just seeing radar guns and stopwatches, you're going to see TrackMans and you're going to see analytical info on your grade sheet. You're going to see all that because and people are going to realize like the Astros, Dodgers, I feel like they're a step up because they put a lot of stock into that, and now all the other organizations are following.
And they include their athletes in those decisions. I know with the Astros, they're very transparent. At least in my experience, they've been very transparent with their athletes on what they're seeing because it's important because it's their opportunity to develop and using those tools. I don't think being on a Rapsodo is the end all be all. Neither do I think being on a radar gun.
Yeah.
But they're really important tools in the toolbox.
Totally.
And if your job is to throw harder and we're not taking velocity on a regular basis and looking at how you move along with that velocity, we're missing huge chunks of opportunities.
Well, you're guessing too.
We are guessing.
You're
guessing's for amateurs. You can't be an amateur if you want to be a professional.
Thanks for your time, dude.
Hey, cool. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll talk next time.
Perfect.
Probably in like 48 hours. All right, see you guys. All right, guys, that's another episode of Beard in the Brains with Dr. Josh Heenan and Robby Rowland. Hey, that's me. Anyways, appreciate you guys for tuning into this episode, giving it a listen, hoping you like it. If you liked it, give me a review. Let me know. Helps me as a podcaster understanding, not only what I do well, but what do I not do well, right? I'm kind of freeballing this thing, if you would. And I love feedback from you guys, whether it be on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Always appreciate any feedback in which I can get better at what I'm doing and provide you guys with quality content. With that being said, if there's ever anything that you want Josh and I specifically to talk about, go ahead and message me. I know his inbox is probably a little bit more full than mine. So shoot me a DM on Instagram, RobbyRow12. That's Robby with a Y. And let me know what you guys want to hear. And with that being said, you guys have a great rest of your day. And we shall talk to you next time. Later.